Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. If you're looking to level up your career with a promotion or trying to get a job you really want, our next guest is here to help. Joining us with some great advice, we welcome career coach Kate O'Sullivan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, a lot of us think, I've got this job, I do a good job every day, shouldn't I just get a promotion? But unfortunately, that's not always how it works.
I know. That's so frustrating, and I hear that all the time. If I just do a good job, then people will notice and I'll get the promotion. And there's actually a framework that I love for thinking about this. So if you picture a pie chart, it's called the pie model. So the idea is that you have performance and you have image and you have exposure. And that we often think that performance is all that matters, right? If I do a good job, that's enough. But what also matters is that people think about you and they think about someone who's ready for more. So that's the image part. And then exposure, if you're just sitting there and you're only working with a few people and you're not in front of the decision makers, then that can really hold you back when it comes to review time or when it comes to, the leaders of your company thinking about who's ready for a promotion.
It can be really scary to put yourself out there in those situations. You've got a great acronym for us. It's called RISE. Can you walk us through the steps of that?
Yeah, so when we think about what do I want people to know me for and how do I want to be seen, so we want to think about recognition, giving recognition to yourself, and also thinking about giving recognition to people on the team, because no one wants to look like they're hogging all the credit. And we also want to think about initiating, so initiating projects where you can be helpful and initiating, that exposure that I talked about before to people who are making decisions. We also want to think about being specific. You mentioned being ready for a promotion, and something that I hear all the time is people will say, well, I think I'm ready and I think I'm doing what's required, but I want you to get really specific about what the gap is and what you need to show people. And then the E is that exposure. So thinking about who do I need to show this and who needs to know that I'm doing a really good job, because it's not always just your direct manager who will be making those promotion decisions.
Are there certain things that people can do kind of depending on your exact career path to set yourself apart from other candidates potentially?
I think it really depends on, knowing what you want and knowing if this is the company that I want to work for, what are they looking for? What do they think is really important? I think sometimes when I talk to people who are looking for a new job, they get into this headspace of, well, I probably could do that, or I could do this. And, if you're the employer, you want someone who is like, this is my dream job. This is what I really want to be doing. And you want that level of enthusiasm and that level of confidence. So I think sometimes stepping back before you apply to a job and really ask yourself, what is the company that I want? What's the role that I want? And where do I feel like this is going to bring all of my strengths, into this role, and have that level of confidence when you're applying for a job can really help.
Yeah, that's a much better place to start from. And then what about those soft skills? I mean, they're so applicable to so many different categories, but we don't always see them emphasized, I guess, in the job searching arena.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, especially when you're thinking about, okay, I know these soft skills are my strengths, but how do I make sure that they come across on the resume? So something that I will advise people is make sure that your resume, and also when you're in interviews, you're telling stories. It doesn't just sound like a list of things that you've done. If I'm reading a whole bunch of resumes and they all just kind of read like a list of responsibilities, it's not very compelling and it doesn't really give you any personality. So being able to tell stories in your resume, and then also in your interview answers, where you're giving people a sense of this is how you approach the problems and you're giving them a sense of your personality is just much more engaging, and I think it leads to a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, that human connection can be really a game changer. One, what about somebody who, let's say they've gone this certain path in their career, they are burned out, they're ready for something totally different. How do you start navigating a really big transition like that?
I love this question because I actually think a lot of people stay in things that they don't love anymore because they feel like it's too hard to pivot and it's too hard to change. So the first I would think about, people will say, oh, I don't think I can do that. I don't have those skills, or I've never done that before. But I like to ask people to think about what is it that you love doing, and then let's talk about the things where we could apply the skills that you already have. So do something really practical, like make a list of your strengths and make a list of the skills that you have, and then think about where could I transfer or apply those skills. And then sometimes it's also about looking to the companies that get a little creative in their hiring, where they'll say, I actually want someone with a different experience or a different background, and that brings something really valuable to the table, rather than just hiring someone who did the exact same job at a competitor company.
Yeah, and if you're kind of truly lost and don't even know where to begin, there's lots of resources out there, right? People that want to help you find your path forward.
That's right. And I think you can look for mentors, you can look for career coaches. If you have an alumni association, just doing some networking from past jobs or from places that you went to school. I think that often we're reluctant to ask for help, but the reality is most of us will go through these career inflection points where we're feeling a little unsure of what to do next. And so just using your network and being willing to be vulnerable and ask for help and get different perspectives can be so helpful.
There's always people rooting for you if you just know where to look sometimes. Hey, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we'll have these tips and more about Kate on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.